your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. Welcome to Tell Me Your Story. I am Richard Dugan, Reverend Dr. D. We're here with a very good friend. She's been on many times. Jude Bijou is with us here on the program. And Jude, it's good to have you back again to talk about an occurrence, a situation that is, it's really, I think, for a lot of people around the globe, not just here in America, it's really difficult to deal with. First of all, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure, as always, for sure.
Today, we're going to talk about anxiety, and according to Google, it's due to difficult experiences growing up. And of course, you, Jude, you have your own definition and so forth. And it seems as though certainly there are a lot of medications that are being dispensed by the doctors for anxiety, when in fact, I have a feeling that there are other non-medical methods that people could employ to move through their anxiety.
Absolutely.
Talk to us about your understanding about what anxiety is. Is Google right, or do you have something a little bit more profound?
Well, I can embellish what the Google says. So absolutely, it's because of difficult experiences that we have when we don't know if we're going to get hit, we don't know if we're going to be bullied, we don't know if we're going to have our next meal, whatever. There are a lot of different reasons in our past, but also we were born with an emotional constitution, and that is a certain amount of fear, a certain amount of anger, and a certain amount of sadness. And we know people who have fear as their predominant emotion. They're the wired ones, the ones that are going a million miles an hour, talking fast, moving fast, thinking fast, always on the go. That's a fear constitution. In contrast to a sadness, somebody who has a lot of sadness, that's the one more depressed and slow, a pear-shaped kind of body. And then we have the anger one, the red face, always ready to explode. And then we can have a combination of those 3 elements, sadness, anger, and fear, that we were all born with. So some people are predominantly fear, and some are predominantly anger, some are predominantly sadness, but most of us are a combo: sadness and anger, sadness and fear, fear and anger, whatever. Or we can be all 3 of those balanced. Mm-hmm. But if we have a fear constitution, and there are just gazillions of us around the globe. That means that when scary things, what we perceive as scary things happen, we go into that fight or flight reaction. So we're hepped up because of we have too many things to do. And that can take us into that anxiety state, that worry state. Because worry, the emotion is fear, because we can feel fear in our body.
Yeah.
We know what that feels like. We get cold, the stomach starts to clench, we tighten up, which is different than the anger as we're ready to fight. And the sadness is we're droopy and have a tendency to want to cry. So when we are in that fear mode all of the time, it makes havoc and we experience it as anxiety in our body, and in our mind is worry. And we know worry warts. Now, there are people with a lot of fear, and they're always trying to wonder what's coming around the next corner, or what's going to happen, what if. All that future thinking is an indicator that a person has a lot of anxiety, and underneath that, a lot of fear.
And fear seems to be the core of it all, that anxiety stems from, And I'm curious, is depression a part of this mix too? Because anxiety tends to churn up the emotions and all of that. But there comes a point when it's kind of like the anxiety has spent a lot of one's energy, and now they get depressed, and then that can lead to other not so beneficial thoughts.
Yes, and I think of depression as the sadness-based feeling. I'm feeling heavy and down, and that's somebody who has both fear and sadness in their constitution. Those are the ones that have that tendency for feeling depressed. And of course, what do we do today? Give them a pill, give them two pills, one pill for the anxiety, one pill for the depression. And then we're juggling and trying to find the right one and all of those things. And it makes it so that it's hard to really just enjoy life. And you see people who are just sort of skipping along, and you go, how can that be when my body is so racked with either fear or anxiety or worry, all of those kind of things?
And I'll tell you, in some situations, you kind of take a look and you go, I should be more anxious, or I should be more this, that, or the other thing. And it's. I mean, I've shared with on this program in the last couple of months the anxiety that my wife and I are going through in regards to having to move. Been in the same place for over 19 years. Now the owners of the property want the property back to do whatever they want. It is theirs. I recognize that. It's the reality. But it doesn't alter in the least the fact that as of this conversation, we still don't have any place to go. And that's raising a lot of uncertainty, certainly. My wife is actually, she's voiced the fact that she's scared. Her biggest fear is winding up on the street.
Absolutely. 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 But now that's a specific event.
That's right.
And so that's natural. When we're uncertainty, confusion, all those things that you're talking about are natural reactions when things are feeling out of control. And so it's okay for her to feel fear. Is she generally a fear-based person, or is she generally a sad person, or generally anger, or is she balanced between the three?
I'm going to say leaning more towards the first two, although she's verbalized a great deal of anger towards the landlords.
Yeah.
And again, I can understand that, and of course, it doesn't do me any good to try to explain the situation in the context of, but it's their property. They can do with it whatever they want, and we right now are in the way. And that doesn't help. It does not.
No, because she's in fear.
Yeah.
She's in anger. And that's the thing. It's so hard to make those emotions go away with your mind. And because what's underneath there is energy. All of these emotions, sadness, anger, and fear, are emotion, energy in motion. And if we deal with the emotion on a purely physical level, then we can start to come back into the present. We can start to feel more of the opposite emotions, joy, love, and peace. But it's very, very hard to try to think our way through those emotions. It's tough. Whereas we start to work with the emotional energy, then we've got to step up to coming back to the present.
Yeah. I often I go into the past and I think about the situation we were in over 19 years ago when we were living in Phoenix and we'd both lost our jobs and we had to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? And we had some resources, so that was helpful. It took the pressure off financially short term. And we decided to move here to Santa Barbara because the choice to move to Ireland was a great idea. It was going to take a lot more of our resources than we could really afford at that time. And now we're in the same situation, but reversed. We did not have a deadline back then like we do now. But I've heard all of the stories of, well, Richard, you don't have to move. You can stay there, because it's going to take them a year or two to get you off the property, because you can declare, you have squatters' rights and that kind of stuff. It's like, that's the wrong kind of energy that I want to generate. No, no, no. It's time for us to move on to a fresh start, a new beginning, wherever that may be. And I'll still be able to work remotely for the station that I work for. So, there are a lot of good things in the mix. So let's talk a little bit about some of these other aspects. Now, when we're talking about anxiety, some of these things, these are almost like byproducts of the anxiety, if I'm not mistaken. There's what's called panic disorder, anxiety to the max, which is producing panic attacks. That is the next step after you are feeling anxious.
Well, yes, that's right. Because when to be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, it really is an ongoing pattern where you're talking about a specific event is causing you anxiety. And when that situation is resolved, then your anxiety, AKA fear, quotient will reduce. So when you have an ongoing, as I say, constitution, or if you go with what Google is saying, if you haven't resolved those issues that were so scary or that you interpreted it as being very scary when you were growing up, then you have these kind of things like phobias or PTSD is just fear to the max because of being in a traumatic event, like I think of people in the Army, or had you witness a murder or something scary, and it just gets lodged in your brain, and you don't release that energy. Nobody says, "Oh, just shake it out." Be like what does a dog do? What does a pony do?
Yeah.
They shake when they're scared, and then they come back to the present. And it's the same with human beings, because for all, whether you have social anxiety, it's hard to get out and socialize. You feel like people are judging you, or whether you're obsessive compulsive, you're checking the doors and making rituals to make yourself feel calmer. Underneath that is fear, and fear manifests as anxiety in your body. So it doesn't matter whether you have panic or PTSD or a phobia. You can be afraid. I'm afraid of spiders. Oh my gosh. Or mice.
Yeah.
It's like you have some kind of trigger and something happened. Maybe it was on television. Maybe it was in, a mouse was running across your floor or your kitchen cabinet, and it just freaked you out. And
Yeah.
now you have this deadly fear against another mouse invading your house.
Mm.
That has been turns into a phobia of or blood. A really good example. A lot of people who have had some blood trauma have now developed a phobia for blood. But it doesn't matter. There's all these different manifestations, but underneath it all is the emotion fear. But what we mostly experience is that anxiety. And you really say it's because we're either in the past or we're in the future. We're not in the present. The present is where peace resides. Peace is the opposite of fear.
Well, that's what's interesting is I have a good friend who's going to be on this program in the not too distant future. His name is Billy Mandarino, and he wrote a book called, and he calls himself the same title as the book, The Nowist.
The nowist?
The Nowist.
Nice.
And really, that's what he promotes because in the now, you can deal with much of what's going on because you're not, I'm going to even use the term disabled by the past or the future, the anxieties over either of those. It's interesting too. It's like I sit here and I say, I'm trusting the universe to find us a place to live, right? And I think, okay, if we could just get word about one place that we could move to, my anxiety level would just deflate. It would almost go away. Because then the issue of where we're going has been solved, it's been taken care of, and the packing and the moving of things becomes less arduous.
Oh, absolutely.
And yet at the same time, if I were to dive into the packing, that might diffuse the emotions because now I'm focused on making sure that what I'm packing is packed safe and secure. And if it's something that's breakable, it won't break, and so on and so forth. And being in that moment of doing something, right? Of doing something, also I think tends to help if we keep, so to speak, keeping our hands busy. It will sort of stave off a lot of that emotion, or you then convert that emotional energy into your hands and doing.
Yes, yes, that's exactly right. And especially if you use your thinking to support you to the now. Now I'm packing up the kitchen. Okay, let me look. Oh, I remember how I really love this plate and where I got this plate. Great, you're in the present, but you're reminiscing, but you're not going, oh, I have so much to do. Oh my gosh, what
Mhm.
happens if I break something? You're not your mind is supporting you in the now. And that is a way out of the anxiety, which is what we'll get to talking about.
Mm.
Because the mind is, which is that worry, is can take you to heaven or take you to hell.
Yeah, that is true. That is absolutely true. And we make of this earth our own heaven or our own hell. And I believe that.
By the thoughts that we think and the
Hmm.
actions that we take.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes by the thoughts that we think and the inaction that we take, if you will, or the lack of action
That we don't take.
that we
Yes.
don't take. And then we,
Yes.
gee, you know what? I better make some phone calls and see if I can't find a place and da 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 da. There's also one of these anxieties, social anxiety. I'm not sure if we fall into this category. What I do know is, and I keep getting asked this because here in Santa Barbara, every so often we have these little celebrations. We just went through solstice, so they have this parade up and down one of the streets called the Solstice Parade. All right. And I keep getting asked, so you going to be there? I said, no, no, don't like the crowds. Don't. And then we have coming up what's called Fiesta, celebrating the Spanish influence on this part of the country, this particular town. And asking, are you going to go to the parade, in which they have a lot of horses and all that stuff? No, no, just I don't like being in the crowds. It's just too much. So it's like as I've gotten older now, I used to when I was younger, when I would go to a mall, I love going to malls and weaving in and out of the people real not fast where I'd hurt anybody or hit anybody, but you know what I mean, you know? And that was great. And I enjoyed that to get to my destination. Maybe it was the store I was going to. Not so much today. And maybe I'm 65 and obviously I've made some changes internally, mentally, and so forth. And maybe I just don't like being in those crowds.
Well, I think the distinction is if you found yourself at Fiesta, how do you feel in your body? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel on alert? Or do you feel okay? It's just the thought about getting there and the thought about all of those people. Or is it actually something that is embedded in your body that so that you really feel, I think I'm going to explode if I stay here in this crowd.
Yeah.
So it really depends. It can be you're thinking, oh gosh, it's so much traffic and so many people and
Yeah.
all these kind of things versus this, my body can't take it
Yeah.
when I'm in there versus, oh, it's a hassle to get there but the horses are beautiful and
Yeah.
the dancing is lovely. So it depends on whether you feel that emotion, that energy in your body.
And then there's another factor too, which I know a lot of people are dealing with, and that is being in crowds and feeling safe. Not just the pickpockets, but the people who decide to get a little crazy and then they start injuring people, sometimes killing them. And it's like, no, I don't even want to take the risk. You know, for me, that's not such of a concern, not a concern as much because my belief is that if it's my time, it's my time. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't change that. Um, but you still have those kinds of concerns. We're talking with Jude Bijou, and we're talking about anxiety. She has a website, ladies and gentlemen. It's called attitudereconstruction.com, and we hope that you will go there as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. This is Anxiety Central. Not that we're dispensing it, we're trying to resolve it. We're trying to sort of bring it under control here with Jude Bijou of attitudereconstruction.com. And you even have a book by that same title. Now, in that book, do you deal with this kind of an issue, or at least ways in which people can, sort of manage these kinds of emotions? Because isn't anxiety and one of our emotions?
The emotion is fear,
Fear.
but
Okay.
but what you feel in your body and what we label it is anxiety, or we can say overwhelm, another feeling. But underneath that overwhelm feeling, oh, too much to do and too many places to go, and all these different obligations. Underneath that, it's that same energy, that jagged energy in our body, where it's hard to breathe, or our breathing is very shallow and we're agitated. If you go and you go to a restaurant or a classroom and you see mostly guys, but that's not all just not just guys, but they're jiggling their leg, like they've got to get that energy out of their body, or that's what they're trying to do is find some manifestation, whether it's smoking a cigarette to try to reduce the anxiety, aka fear, or you know, taking drugs, or eating too much food, or all of these different things that we have to distract ourselves from the emotion that we're feeling. Where I say, feel it's just energy, feel and express that energy constructively and naturally, not by, eek, I'm scared, I'm going to die. It's not that kind of patter. It's like, I'm just scared. I just need to move this energy out of my body.
And that's where I know the greatest contributor to help to diminish and reduce that and burn it off, of course, is exercise. Sometimes just getting out and taking a walk. Um,
Yes, that reduces it, but you never ever think of a dog that's going to go, oh, I think I want to go exercise. Oh, that's the way I'm going to reduce my fear. That's it's that jangly feeling that we have to move out of our body.
Mm-hmm.
But with walking or something, you can really come into the present, but you're not really reducing that underlying fear. And I think that we have to, whether we do go into the shower and shake it off, whether we put on music or just to get up and just wiggle and squiggle and move that energy out of the body. You feel like a fool for the first minute, and then
Mm-hmm.
you go, oh, I'm feeling a little bit better.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm feeling, oh gosh, look at that beautiful flower out there. I can start to see because I've moved that energy naturally. Whereas something like exercise, that's not what is natural. That's what one of the things that we do instead, but that's a constructive thing that we do instead. That's better than smoking a cigarette or having a shot of beer or a shot of
Yeah.
whiskey, something like that.
About 3 weeks ago, I had a buddy come over and help me to disassemble my wife's greenhouse because we're
Mm.
gonna haven't decided yet. Are we taking it with us? Are we gonna sell it? Or are we gonna end up just throwing it out? Kind of thing. But needed to disassemble it just the same. So in that 2 or 3 hours that we were working on that, even though every once in a while we'd chat a little bit about our situation, for the most part, we were focused on disassembling it safely without breaking anything or hurting ourselves, that kind of thing. And I have to say that for me, that was pretty good therapy. Um,
Yes,
it
yes,
certainly didn't resolve the situation that we're facing, but at least it took care of one of the things that needed to be, and it helped to burn off at that time that fearful or anxious energy, that nervous energy, so that I
yes,
can move on to think a little more clearly about, all right, so what do I need to do? Who do I need to call now to see if we can't find a place and then a mover and da 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 da. And getting out of that emotion, that fear emotion, is extremely important if there is a situation such as ours where you need to get answers to that question: where are we going to live, who is going to move us there, and so forth. So that's really important to
absolutely,
those outlets.
absolutely. That's definitely a constructive way to deal with that situation because sooner or later you're going to have to do that, and you don't want to do it haphazardly. You want to do it with care to disassemble the greenhouse, and that's on a list of all of the things that you have to do, and you're handling that, and that's decreasing the amount of anxiety that you feel. It's like, okay, I've handled that. All right, am I going to put an ad in the paper? Who puts an ad in the paper anymore? Am I going to put it online or put the word out that I want to sell this or not? But you can do the next things because you've taken action. That's that action versus inaction. If you make your list and just keep staring at the list, you're just going to increase the amount of anxiety you have. Oh, because anxiety, fear is about time. It's about the past, about the future, and what we want to do is come to the present. And when we're worried about the past and projecting it onto the future, we're just accelerating the amount of anxiety that we feel rather than I'll handle what I can right now. And it's the greenhouse, and I've got a nice buddy to help me, and we can figure out how to do this and have a couple of laughs along the way.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
that's one really, really good thing to do when you're feeling that anxiety is write down everything you need to do and figure out what small thing you're going to start with and not look at the whole list. Just pick that one thing and do that in the present.
Yeah. Jude Bijou, my guest. AttitudeReconstruction.com is the website. The subject today is anxiety. We are a society that likes to worry. Worry is so prevalent, it almost seems as though it's socially acceptable, and it's one of the less incompatible, it's a syndrome, ladies and gentlemen. It's less inconspicuous, you might say, a fear. We consider it a good trait. If a mom worries about her children, and a teen worries about good grades, or a father worries about his company shutting down, or I'll take it to a different level, Jude, or your heritage tells you that your people, okay, your ancestors worry. Ireland is where my wife's family comes from, and I'm a few percent Irish. And it is pretty typical that the Irish like to worry. And it's like, oh man, you can't escape it. And yet, it really isn't um, something that is necessarily helpful. And it has been said that what we worry about, 90 to 95% of it never, ever happens. How do you handle worry?
Absolutely. Well, that's the mind, because you're right, it's silent. Other people aren't reading and opening up your skull and going, "Woo, he's worrying a whole lot." It's more of a private activity unless we verbalize a lot of the worry, and you can't help but talk about it. So everybody we're talking about what's this going to happen, and why this is doom and gloom about this. And those kind of people are really hard to be around, because they're not uplifting themselves, and they're not uplifting those people that they're sharing their concerns with.
Mhm.
And so I think that what you need is a mantra. Indian is where the word mantra comes from, but I like to go with a word or a phrase that I can understand is a lot more helpful for me than a Sanskrit mantra.
Mhm.
So maybe it's something like, I'll do what I can and the rest is out of my hands. I'll do what I can and the rest is out of my hands. I'll do what I can and the rest is out of my hands. I'll tell people to do a couple 100,000 reps of that and you'll get it,
Right.
because the old pattern of how many times you go, what if this happens? What if that happens? And we need to start interrupting all of that future thinking, what I call futurizing, and come back to the truth. I'll do what I can, and the rest is out of my hands. Or everything will be all right. Everything will be all right. Everything will be, I will survive. This feeling won't last forever. Rather than, oh my gosh, I'm always going to feel like that, which is what happens with anxiety, is that we feel like we're going to always be in this current situation. Where if we get ourselves a phrase or a couple of phrases that we can hook on to when we're feeling that worry, and go, nope, nope, worry doesn't work. It's not going to make me happy. It's not going to be any good. I'm not doing any good to worry. What can I do now? What can I do? What can I do? Can I go for a walk? Ah, okay. I can at least get into the now by going for a walk. Okay. But not that feeding the worry, because it only feeds on itself. And pretty soon you're having a hard time sleeping at night because your mind is so wrapped up into all of these what ifs that, like you say, 90 whatever percent never come to pass.
Yeah, it's really very interesting when we start thinking about all of these different things and processing them. Now, there would be those who would say, "Well, yeah, Jude, it seems like these are platitudes," but something tells me you wouldn't have put them down if you thought they were platitudes, which to some people's minds, platitudes don't really help.
Yes, but what does a mother say to its child? Everything will be okay. Everything will be okay. Maybe the stroking their back. Everything will be okay. Everything will be okay. And that's reassurance. Like you say, you used a wonderful word, safe.
Hmm.
That brings a level of safety which contradicts the future thinking.
Right.
And these kind of expressions have just been used throughout time. One thing at a time, one thing at a time, one thing at a time. It can seem like a platitude, but it is also the truth. That's all I can really do is one thing at a time.
Mm.
All this multitasking is what fear people do. Oh, I can handle this and be on the phone and make dinner at the same time and check my emails and all that kind of thing. No, let me go and do one thing at a time. I'll feel better. I'll feel more present if I just do one thing at a time. What am I going to choose to do right now? Because we have a choice. That's what's really true. We have a choice what we're going to feed our mind and what we're going to feed our body. And it's like, I'm better off to take something that will pacify. Because if I go to myself, everything will be all right. Jude, everything will be all right. You're doing what you can, everything will be all right. If I say that over and over, I'll start to believe it because it's true. It's not going to be the end of the world, more than like, that's pretty low probability that I will live for tomorrow and the next day and the next day. It's just a temporary feeling. And if I can refrain it so that I get, okay, this is temporary. This situation will pass. This will pass. Take some deep breaths because this is another really good tool to bring us back to the present. Okay, just take some deep breaths. You're doing what you can. Just pick one thing at a time and do that. That's a whole lot better thing to have your mind attached to than, oh, what's going to happen? And oh my gosh, and and that just sends us beyond,
Yeah.
beyond having fun, beyond feeling peaceful.
There are times when I even hear my father, my late father, in my head, and and reminding me how proud of me how he is, and that he loves me, and that you're doing all right. You're doing all right. Just keep moving forward. You're doing all right. It doesn't really give me any answers to the situation, but at least there's a certain level of comfort in those words that I hear. And then I think about his life and what he went through. Certainly meeting my mom and then having six kids. And I remember they moved into the house I grew up in before I was born. So they had to do a move from one place to another, obviously, because their family was starting to grow. And, I think about that and I try to put myself in his shoes and look how far he came. Never didn't have a roof over his head or ours. Okay. I don't know what specific financial struggles they might have had. They didn't share those with us at the time, and that's fine. But I'm sure that everybody does, and everybody has goes through these kinds of things. And sometimes I think maybe that can help too when you take a look at family or friends and so forth
Mhm.
who, oh yeah, so and so they went through this so long, this time ago, and look where they are today. So I'm just going to continue to trust in the universe that we'll be okay. And going back to these sayings, everything is going to be all right.
Mhm.
As we continue talking with Jude Bijou and talking about anxiety from her website, by the way, attitudereconstruction.com, here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan, along with Jude Bijou. And this is an interesting subject because it's something that is pretty prevalent in our society today. Would you say more so now than in decades or even centuries past? I mean, everybody dealt with stuff, okay, as they were growing up, down through our ancestors' past. That is true. But there are some who are even saying that it is even more so today, especially and maybe exclusively because of social media on the internet. And I'll throw one other element in there. My wife and I nearly were scammed twice. Once in June by an alleged dog breeder, and once in July by an alleged realtor trying to find people to rent a house that was not available to rent. And it's like I can't believe anything that I search on the internet anymore. It's a wasteland. And so now I've got to talk to people like I've got to speak one on one to human beings in order to really move forward. Um, do you think it's worse today, maybe, than it was in years and years and years gone by?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the other element is the political element of the
Hmm.
all of the uncertainty. So it's both the social media, but also the politics. I see people, individuals and couples. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I have had huge amounts of people like since the election and with other things that are going on who are just so into worry and so into anxiety like never before. And I give them the same prescription that we're talking about is move that energy out of your body because you're doing what you can on an individual level, and then you have to surrender, trust, whatever. I'll just have to let go. But it's so hard, and people who are looking at pictures of the starving people in the Gaza Strip, it's like you feel very helpless, you feel overwhelmed, and all of that stuff just kicks that our fear level up. Because what I oftentimes suggest is that people limit their exposure to social media and limit their amount of news that they're taking in because it just stokes their fear. And that doesn't make them happy campers.
Yeah. Well, we encourage you folks to go to Jude's website, attitudereconstruction.com. The book she has is of the same title. So we hope that you will go there. We'll be linked to your website, as always, Jude, so that people can find out more about you and the work you do, maybe even connect with you and get a little online counseling with you in that respect. That we hope that people will do just that. It is. Something that we want to do here, and that is sort of do a little recap of what we've talked about, some of the solutions. We already know that we're talking about fear-based situations. Let's recap a little bit about some of the other methods and that of moving forward. Now, again, we can go through that list of phrases or sayings, if you will. That's one thing. I like this one in particular. One thing at a time. And one of the things that I have been able to incorporate into that is if I just do one thing right now, that's one less thing that I'll have to deal with in the future. The list, in essence, gets a
Yeah.
little shorter, a little shorter.
But Richard, before we continue on where you're going, I want to tell you how lucky you were to have a father that told you such nice things and encouraging things about yourself. That gave you really good self-esteem, and that's priceless.
Yeah.
So I say, hooray for Richard's dad.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad. You gave the best gift
Yeah.
because you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm unworthy, nobody loves me, all that kind of stuff. You heard it enough that he said it enough. You got it that it permeates. It's the same kind of thing like we're talking about. You heard it over and over. Good job, well done. And that's what is in every cell of your body now,
Yeah.
which is lovely.
Yeah. And
Lucky you.
thank you. And the aspect of victimhood is not there. The last time that I really dove into it was when I was 19, and my mother suggested that I get a job with one of the religious stations in town, which later on, of course, I did. But I said, no, no. And besides, the state of Arizona is the one that labeled me legally blind. This is on them, and so on and so forth. And I'm playing the victim. It didn't last long. And I have never believed in being the victim ever again, even in the situation we're in now. We're not victims. My
Yes.
book talks about choices. My book, Choices 5 Steps for Life. We made a choice back in 2006, and this is where we chose to live. Now, we didn't know what the future would hold, but this was still the place we chose to live and connect with the people, the mother and father who were the landlords who have since passed, and now, of course, passed on to their children. And they're doing what they're doing, they're making their choices. And so, and I do accept the responsibility in that regard. And at the same time, I also accept the responsibility for the adventure that we are on. And who knows where we're going to wind up. And I say that in a very positive way. It could be the most spectacular place on the planet that we may wind up. So I'm just keeping it there. What else can we do in this process? And again, this is sort of the recap as we come to the end of this particular conversation that we can do in regards to, and we'll stay focused on the fear.
So I really want to reiterate the idea of shaking and shivering. Good old Taylor Swift has this great song, Shake It Out. And if you go and listen, watch it's a great YouTube thing, but she says, oh, then they're talking about me in the media, and I shake it out. And then this happened, and I shake it out. And then somebody's bugging me, and I shake it out. And she understands that it's energy in the body, but we're so judgy about if somebody looks like they're shaking, that's weird, rather than I got to give this a shot and give it a try. Shiver in the shower, or put on music, but to try it out, especially if you have a lot of fear, because it's a secret weapon where we can have a good cry when we're feeling sad, or we're moving that energy out, we're pounding on something when we're angry, or we shiver it out when we are in fear. That as long as we don't use our mind while we're shivering to go, oh my gosh, I've got too much to do. No, I just am feeling this fear, and it's okay. It's okay. It's just fear, and shake it out. To just try that for a minute or two, and you'll start laughing. That's what happens. You start laughing, and it releases that energy that's in your body. So I just can't say that enough, to just go to the underlying issue behind the fear that's causing the anxiety, that's causing the worry, that's causing the overwhelm and the confusion. It's like, I don't know what to do next. Shake it out. Take some deep breaths. Shake it out.
Mm.
So I have a little soapbox there, because we are so self-conscious, maybe, or we want to use the mind to figure it out, where it's a body thing. It's energy in the body, emotion, that is driving all of our bad attitudes.
Yeah.
And if we just take it back to that primary emotion and deal with that on an energetic level, we find that our life is a lot simpler, and we're a lot more present, and we feel better.
Yeah.
So that's my little soapbox there.
I want to ask you about one of those items. How important slash powerful is having a good cry?
Mm. It's uh, as long as when you're crying, you don't think, I'm a victim. Oh, nobody likes me. Because if I have a client that comes in, a friend, and they're feeling depressed, I go, well, what are you thinking? And they're telling me all of these terrible thoughts about themselves. I'm not going to be able to get a new job. Nobody likes me. Oh, I can't do anything. Everybody else is doing it so much better. And I say, that's goo, 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 goo. Just have yourself a good cry. It's tears are nectar.
Hmm.
Tears are nectar. And it's the same pattern. I'm just feeling sad. I just need to cry. I have a neighbor who I am enjoying so much, but she's apologizing for crying. And it's like, no, 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 you don't get it. Those tears are natural.
Yeah.
You just have to not be throwing stuff on you that is going to be about yourself. Not think negatively while you cry. To just say, I just feel sad. I just need to cry. Or you can say, I'm a good person while you cry. And more than likely, you'll start to cry harder because it contradicts all those old messages that we have that we internalized from our parents, from our peers, classmates, all of that that told us we're not enough, we're
Yeah.
not okay.
Yeah.
And so, but crying is divine.
Yeah. I know that with my father's passing, I had a good cry, and I've wanted to over the last few months, because of just the feeling of overwhelm. So many things are happening all at the same time, and I just want somebody else to come in and take half of them away. It's not going to happen, but I can dream, can't I? But that would be my tearjerker, would be just that feeling of overwhelm, that there's so many things to deal with. We have to put down the dog, and I have to bury him, and now we have to move, and then we have to do this, and now my wife is sick, and now there's this, and then the radio station wants me to train on a new program, and da 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 da, and it's like, how can it's like, I want to clear the table. I don't want anything on the table for at least
Huh?
10 minutes.
10 minutes,
10
shake and
minutes.
shiver. 10 minutes, but have that cry. Go out into your backyard and just tell your wife, hey, don't bother me for a little while. I'm just going to go talk to myself, and just give yourself those reassuring thoughts, and you can rock a little bit and go, I'm just feeling sad. I just need to move some of this energy. It's okay. You'll
Yeah.
feel so much better,
Yeah.
so much better when we acknowledge the emotional energy and move it out without trashing ourselves,
Yeah.
without going, oh, you're weak.
Yeah.
Boys are weak when they cry. No,
No.
that's natural.
I've
It's
I've I've heard this time over and over and over again in regards to those kinds of phrases, especially geared towards men, that you are actually, it sounds contradictory, you are actually at your strongest when you are vulnerable, when you let the tears flow, because you're
abs-
not, first of all, you're not holding on to the energy first and foremost, you know? So very important.
absolutely.
And I will say
Yes.
that I feel a whole lot better just chatting with you, Jude Bijou, here on Tell Me Your Story. We are about to wrap up our conversation with Jude Bijou. Jude, this has been wonderful to have this conversation and to bring it to a wonderful conclusion uh, as we have. And I thank you so much for being a part of what we're trying to do to change the world a little at a time, making the choices that hopefully people will choose, that will help to make their dreams come true. And it's kind of hard to dream when you're in fear. That's a whole different it's a whole different kind of dreaming, okay? So if you
Yes.
can let go of that fear, stay in the present moment, and then start thinking about, like for my wife and I, it would be walking along the beaches in Ireland, and walking, maybe even going back to the Blarney Castle, or to all of the places we've already been, and a lot of the places we haven't been yet. That is a wonderful dream. That there's no fear there. There's excitement. There's
No.
anticipation, And so thank you so much for bringing that to us.
My pleasure.
I have three final questions have asked you over the years that you've been on the program. I'm going to ask those of you again. But first, I'm going to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Mondays at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on Spotify, SoundCloud. We are on, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio. We're on YouTube. And we hope you'll tune into those conversations, subscribe, as well as click notification. My book Choices is available at Amazon. It's in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle. The Audible is going to be released very soon, probably on the 1 year anniversary of the publication of Choices, 5 Steps for Life. And if you can leave us a tip, that's what I like to call it, a tip. PayPal is our tip jar. And if you go there and leave us whatever you can, we'd be greatly appreciative. We do have links on the homepage of richarddugan.com to Amazon and PayPal. So go there, click on the book Amazon link and get a copy of my book, and then go to the PayPal account and leave us a tip. And finally, we ask that you take some time during the decade of perfect vision, to go within and listen to that still small voice. With all of that, we move to our final three questions for a very special guest. And the first of those is, who is Jude Bijou?
Who is Jude Bijou? Jude Bijou is a being who's trying to do their best and to spread joy, love, and peace.
What gets you up in the morning?
The sun, the idea that it's a new day.
And finally, what was your best day?
Oh, Yesterday,
Okay.
maybe today.
Okay.
I had a beautiful beach walk yesterday, and dinner with a lovely friend. And most days are the best day.
Wonderful. Well, Jude, once again, thank you so much for being a part of Tell Me Your Story and making the kind of difference in not only your life and world, but in the lives of those who are listening and watching, and mine as well. So thank you so much. And once again, thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, video cast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for letting me be in your life. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.